Before we understand the concept of JDBC, we must need to understand the concept of data. Data is nothing but collection of fact. For example, data about an employee can include the information like name, date of birth, email ID, mobile number, educational qualification, salary details, years of experience. Similarly, data about a student can be like student name, register number, student date of birth, mark details, address, and others. So these are all the examples of data. So why we need data and what is the purpose of the data? Software application are required to store these kind of data in a computer. For example, normally we store all the employee information, also student information and other information. These software application help to answer the question like how many employees are above 20 years of age and what is the average salary of the employee in a particular organization. Similarly, for student information, we can get the answers like who are all get the above 75 marks, the place where the students are coming from. These kind of answers we can get from the software applications. So data is raw, that is, it does not convey anything, but by understanding the pattern, it become a useful information. That useful information will help to make the business decision. So this is the major use of data. So what is database? A database is organized collection of data generally used to store the data. These data can be accessed electronically from the computer system. As we seen in the previous example, student data can be stored in the database or employee data can be stored in the database. These data are stored and maintained in the database. These database are called as the relational database. A relational database in data are stored in a table format, that is rows and columns. Data can be stored, retrieved and maintained in the database. Some of the examples of relational database are MySQL, Oracle, SQL, etc. Data can be stored in any one of this database and we can access these data whenever we want to make a useful information. These useful information will help to make the business decision. Here, this table shows the employee information with 6 fields. The fields are employee ID, first name, last name, date of birth, email ID, mobile number. From these data, we can get some useful information. How many employees are having more than 25 years of age? And we can easily get the mobile number to send SMS on their occasions or any special events in order to improve the business decisions. So this is the major importance of database. What is JDBC? JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. It is an API that can access any kind of data which is stored in the relational database. As we seen already, data are stored in the relational database that can be accessed using the JDBC API. API is nothing but application programming interface which has set of classes and interfaces help to access the data from the database. JDBC helps to access, modify, store and retrieve data from the database. For example, we can able to store the employee information, we can able to access the employee information using particular ID, we can able to modify the particular employee information, and we can do many operations as we want. Some of the major steps for connecting database are: first, the JDBC connect the database like MySQL, Oracle, SQL. Then it will execute the query to a database. Finally, it retrieve the result received from the database. These are all the major steps of JDBC which helps to connect the database for retrieving data from it. We can use any kind of database here, relational database. Either we can use MySQL, Oracle, or SQL. For connecting the database, we have to give the username, password, and other information related to the database, and we have to execute the query whatever we want. If it is a select query, we have to give a select query. If we want to store some information, we have to give the insert query. If we want to retrieve something, we have to give the select query. If we want to update something, we have to give the update or alter query. DML DDL statements can be done using the statement object to a database. Finally, the result for a query will be retrieved and processed to get a useful information. This is the JDBC architecture. Here, user can interact the Java application. The Java application uses the JDBC API. JDBC API will interact with the different relational database like MySQL, Oracle, SQL, and MS Access. Then it get the information from the database, or it can store information into the database. This is the architecture of JDBC. There are four types of drivers. They are JDBC ODBC driver, native API driver, network protocol driver, and thin driver. The first driver is JDBC ODBC driver. This driver converts your JDBC method call into ODBC function call. All these driver will help to connect the database from your client application. The first driver which convert all your method call into the ODBC function call. But the thing is, this JDBC ODBC driver will not support in recent version JDK 1.8. The next driver is native API driver. This driver converts JDBC method call into native calls of the database API, which is faster than the JDBC ODBC driver, and this driver is also used to connect the database from your client application. And the third driver is network protocol driver. This driver uses the middleware that converts the JDBC call directly or indirectly to the vendor database protocol, which means first two drivers, that is JDBC ODBC driver and native API driver, that converts your JDBC call into native calls or some other calls. This kind of conversion will not done in network protocol driver, but the thing is it uses the middleware to convert all the JDBC calls in order to get information from the database. The final driver is thin driver. This driver interacts directly with the database, which means first two driver converts your JDBC call into other type of calls, and third driver which does not convert your JDBC call but which uses the extra application server, that means middleware, to convert all your JDBC calls. This thin driver directly interact with the database, so it does not require any native database library. So this is the driver preferably used to interact the database from the client application. These are all the steps to connect database from client applications to any kind of relational database. First step is register the driver. Second step is we need to create the connection object. Third one is create the statement. Fourth one is get the data using result set. And the final one is close the connection. Let's discuss more about these steps. First step is register the driver. For name of method which is used to dynamically load the driver. We have a different types of driver. We have to choose which driver we need to use to connect the database. Second step is get connection of method which is used to connect the database driver and log into the database. This method uses the database information, username, password to connect the database. Then only we can able to retrieve data from the database. Third step is create statement. This create statement will help to execute the query to the database. For example, if we are inserting some value into the database, we need to give an insert query. If we want to retrieve something, we need to give the select query. These queries are executed using the statement of method. And the fourth step is execute query. This method will help to execute the query using statement object, but the results the result of this will be stored in the result set object. Thus that will help to retrieve and process the result received from the query. And finally, close connection. Close connection is used to close the database connection. These are all the 5 steps involved to connect the database from client application to the relational database. So this is the sample code snippet. So the first step is we have to load the driver. Here class.forName, and we have to specify which type of driver we have to use here. And the second one is we have to create a connection. Here you have to specify which type of database you are using, either MySQL or Oracle or SQL and any other kind of database. And you have to provided the username and password for the particular database. This step 2 will create a connection to the particular relational database. And the third step is we have to create a statement object. This statement object will used to execute the queries. The fourth step is the statement object will execute the query. That result will be stored in the result set object. Then these results are processed in order to get the useful information. That information will help to make the business decisions. And the final step is closing the connection. JDBC is an application programming interface used in Java programming language, which helps to access the data in the database from the client application. It is a Java based technology used for connecting the database, which helps to access, retrieve, update the data in a database. It is used to query and update the data in a database using the methods.